Harry's Wife, part 77.4. Always the spoiler. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and in order to further your understanding of narcissism and to enable you to understand what's really going on with Harry's wife, I'm going to analyse a series of photographs to let you understand more about what's really happening. I'm very pleased to see the responses and views to this recent material of video and photo analysis. It's evident you find it extremely useful. However, it is evident within the comments that there are many people who have come here who are newcomers to narcissism. Welcome on board. You are now in the right place to ensure that you have a full and total understanding of this concept. I have over 1,000 videos about the subject, and I would encourage you to spend time listening to not just the Harry's Wife series, but all of my other videos as well, because they cover so many different facets of narcissists, the dynamic with our victims and our victims themselves, so that it'll answer many of the questions that I see repeatedly posed in the comments. This is a place of education. This is a place of information. It's not some hate-filled cauldron. It is to enable people to understand about narcissism and to enable them to understand what is happening when Harry's wife behaves in particular ways. Many people believe, for instance, some of her responses are born purely out of anxiety. Partially correct. It is anxiety linked to the loss of control, and it's important for people to understand, and regular listeners will have heard me say this before, there's no such thing as a part-time narcissist. We don't switch off our narcissism. Basically, when we're conscious and we're interacting in some shape or form with other people, our narcissism governs our behaviour. It isn't the case that we are nice for the sake of being nice. We are pleasant to you because that's a benign manipulation for the purposes of achieving one or more of the prime aims: fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits. And it's very important that people understand this. Use this series to further your understanding, and do indulge in listening to more of my work which isn't related to Harry's wife. There are other celebrities and famous people that are examined. You'll find that in the very playlist. You will find copious examples of narcissistic manipulations, the narcissistic dynamic, enabling you also to understand the narcissistic perspective, which is an alien concept to those of you who are not narcissists. But it is fundamental that you embrace and understand. You don't have to like it, but you do need to understand it in order to arm yourselves and defend yourselves. I do try to answer comments where I can. However, there are many demands on my time, and often you'll find the answers in the videos with a little bit of digging around. So I'd encourage you to do that. Now, on to our photograph selection. Our first photograph was provided by a viewer and is an excellent find. It is a little different from many of the ones that I am provided with, and incidentally, do keep your suggestions coming with regard to photographs that you would like me to talk about and analyse. Just send them by email, narcissist1909@gmail.com. Please do have regard to the existing photo analysis videos to avoid duplication. That would be appreciated. Now, as we can see in our first photograph, which lends itself to the title of this particular section of part 77, always the spoiler. And here we have a staged photograph from the christening of Louis. And quite a delightful photograph it is too. Notice something immediately. Yes, the smiling faces, of course, the happy and proud parents. That's all clearly obvious. But you should have also noticed something else. Colour coordination. The whites and the blues, even matching the carpet and the curtains and the drapes, sort of ice blue colour. So we see James Middleton, perhaps fresh from more marshmallow catastrophe, but looking well groomed there with his blue suit on and a corresponding tie. And Pippa Middleton, we can't see her bottom on this occasion, and her husband, I presume, both, again, matching in terms of the required colour coordination. Smart outfits. Proud grandparents of Mr. and Mrs. Middleton, colour coordinated. Charles and Camilla, also colour coordinated. And, of course, sat front centre, William and Catherine, with their 3 children, all looking very happy and all coordinated. And on the end, the Ginger Prince, he's also managed to get dressed. Valet has helped him there, eased him into those trousers, zipped them up for him, popped on the shirt and tie. He's all colour coordinated. But wait, what is this? What is this amongst our midst of blues and whites and cobalts? Ah, turd brown. Yes, Harry's wife is there. Does she wear white? Does she wear blue? Does she wear aquamarine even? No. She's gone for turd brown. I understand that there was a request, if not a diktat, that people wear the colours that you can see everybody else wearing for the purpose of presenting a colour-coordinated front to create a beautiful photograph. Even Charlotte, with her shoes and her headband, has played along, and the trim on George's shirt indicates also that he has done as he's told. But not Harry's wife. Oh no. Of course, this event is all about the Cambridges, because it's Louis's christening. And you will be aware that the narcissist absolutely hates the fact that an event is about other people, because the spotlight is on others and not the narcissist, which inherently threatens the narcissist's sense of control. All the fuel is going elsewhere, of course. Neither William or Catherine are narcissists, and therefore they don't need the fuel, but that's in essence what's occurring. The smiles, the praise, the cooing, the ooh and the ahs about young Louis there are all directed towards the baby and his parents, and thus Harry's wife misses out on all of this fuel. She, because she has no emotional empathy, is unable to feel any warmth towards anybody else there and to think this is a lovely occasion. Of course, facade management comes into play. As a mid-range narcissist, she's not immediately going to get hold of Louis and throw him like a rugby ball through the nearest window, defenestrating him. No, she's not going to comment adversely to Catherine about the long gown that Louis is wearing. No, the facade will prevent all of that. But nevertheless, her narcissism can't help but cock a snook and seek to assert control. And this is done by basically being the spoiler in the photograph. This is done by her narcissism to cause her to select an outfit which doesn't correspond. And you can't tell me that she hasn't got the money or the access to something. Although, of course, if somebody were to point it out to her, why are you wearing turd brown and not ice blue? She'd probably say, I didn't have a thing to wear. The royal family didn't support me in looking for clothes that day. I was on the brink of suicide as I didn't know what to wear, and in the end I had to put this dress on instead. Her narcissism wants to regain control, and the fact that she'll have been told, please wear white, stroke ice blue, stroke blue, will have threatened her sense of control. And of course, because this has come from her nemesis, Catherine, who is painted black, and also William being painted black to a degree by extension of his association with Catherine, although when he's functioning in isolation with Harry's wife, he's likely to turn white because of her desire to have him as the prize. But that's a separate story. But the invitation explaining that you should wear these colours will have threatened her sense of control. And of course, coming from Catherine, who's painted black, makes it all the worse. Therefore, her narcissism says, don't do that. Reject the threat to control by not complying, and furthermore, you can draw attention to yourself by wearing turd brown. Hence, on the day, the dress selection is that of turd brown. This means that the threat that was posed at the time by the invitation has been dealt with some time ago by the decision not to go along with it, or perhaps looking at the invitation again on the day, the threat manifests once again. You should be wearing this colour. Well, I'm not going to, says the narcissism on her behalf, and instead causes her to wear turd brown. And then, of course, in the photograph, she stands there knowing, I'm not wearing what everybody else is wearing. I will stand out. And in that photograph, of course, because it's all about the Cambridges, posing for the photograph will threaten her sense of control furthermore. Of course, because she's in a group of people, the facade has to keep the ignited fury under control. She can't proceed in the manner that I had explained earlier on in this video. But it means that she is able to assert control, not directly, not indirectly, because she's not able to talk to anybody when she's having the photograph taken, but instead, in her own head, her narcissism will be saying to her, I didn't comply. Look, everybody will be looking at how wonderful I am in this gorgeous turd brown outfit that I'm wearing. And therefore, her narcissism will attain control in the unconscious by the third assertion of control, by staying in a position of withdrawal, causing her to feel proud as much as her rebellious act of wearing turd brown, and furthermore, that she is in effect cocked a snook, and she'll be telling herself, I look far better than anybody else here, I will look gorgeous on this photograph, everybody will notice me, and therefore it allows that assertion of control to be achieved. Facade stays in place, we see the fixed grin as usual, plastered across her face, no warmth coming from the eyes, but the assertion of control has been achieved. So throughout the initial invitation that was sent, the narcissism will have said, wear something else to reject that threat to control, and on the day itself, when it came to choosing the outfit, it rejected the threat to control posed by the request or instruction to wear white and ice blue, and therefore caused her to select that particular dress. And in the photograph, when all eyes are on the Cambridges, she in her own world will be asserting control, although in the unconscious she doesn't know that's what she's doing, by thinking, I'll stand out, I'll look better than everybody else, I'm far more beautiful than she is, etc., etc., to enable her to have that unconscious sense of control. Of course, one would argue it spoils the photograph to a degree because everybody else is colour coordinated, but she isn't. If I'd have been Catherine, I'd have got her photoshopped into something ice blue instead, and that really would have wounded her when she saw the prints of the photographs. Or perhaps even cropped her out altogether, maybe putting one of Harry's former girlfriends in the picture. That would have been quite entertaining, wouldn't it? But there we see the narcissist looking to spoil an occasion, and those of you who have been ensnared by narcissists will be familiar with the ways that the narcissist goes about that, spoiling any occasion. As one of my viewers astutely commented, that when it comes to a wedding, every narcissist is the bride, and at the funeral, every narcissist is the corpse. And once again, the narcissist tries and endeavours to ensure that it's all about her, and Harry's wife is no exception to that. And so to our second photograph. And there we have it, a snapshot demonstrating what lies beneath in a microsecond. The advantage of a photograph is, of course, that it captures these moments and allows you then to look upon this rather than having to see it in a video as a very small glimpse that you might actually miss, or having to repeatedly watch the same section and slow it down. Now, as I've explained elsewhere, everybody can have an off picture, so to speak. There's a picture taken where you blink, and therefore you look like you've fallen asleep, or that you look like you're on the reefer or pissed. However, a succession of repeated photographs that capture certain images on a repeated basis is demonstrative, allied with the knowledge that we already have of the individual being a narcissist, based upon the evidence from a variety of sources. And as I have explained before, what we do is we analyse the behaviour through this prism of narcissism. So for someone to say, oh, well, this might just be a bad picture. No, remember, we know what we're dealing with here. This has been established by repeated evidence over a sustained period of time. And this allows us to interpret what we see here. And this is, of course, the ignited fury. There's been a challenge, either by way of challenge fuel or wounding, and this has caused the ignition of the fury. We see the fixed, riveting gaze, that death stare that we've seen on numerous occasions, makes its appearance. The lips are pursed, the jaw is clenched. In that instance, the facade has melted away. The narcissism wasn't quick enough to prevent this ignited fury from coming to the surface. It's highly likely that after this was taken, the facade made its reappearance, and therefore this fixed death stare would vanish in an instant. But this snapshot captures what is actually going on. The death stare, the fixed glare, showing that cold fury which is ignited, the pursed lips, and the clenched jaw, all a symbol of the cold fury that sits within and has been ignited by either a challenge through wounding or a challenge through the provision of challenge fuel. Steps will have been taken thereafter by the narcissism to assert control, perhaps directly, more likely indirectly, or from a position of withdrawal. And if this is, as one suspects, in a public place, the facade would have reappeared very quickly to ensure that this glimpse of ignited fury did not remain for too long. As you look at this picture, you're likely to think that she looks positively deranged, bonkers, off the charts, loony. But what you're actually seeing is the hatred, the ignition of that cold fury that creates the death stare and the fixing of the mouth and the jaw, demonstrative of what's actually going on underneath. Our next two photographs demonstrate the appearance of a tongue. Now, ordinarily, when someone sticks their tongue out, it's as a consequence of being a child, which is something that children do in a sense of yabu sucks, and an adult may well do it to be rude to somebody or a playful gesture. So what do we see here? Well, both pictures are taken in public, and therefore, first of all, it's not a particularly graceful or gracious look to adopt of protruding part of the tongue in a public place on a royal engagement. In the first picture, we can see that the ginger prince is to one side, and there is a crowd. People can be seen behind. And there is Harry's wife, eyes fixed as usual, no warmth being demonstrated, and out pops the tip of her tongue. In the second photograph, again, there can be seen a crowd, and the tongue makes its appearance. What's going on? Is she actually being rude? Well, no, because what's occurring here, although some people might regard her behaviour as rude because she's a duchess and that she's not really conducting herself in a manner which is conducive to that. For instance, you'd be hard-pressed to remember any incidences of Her Majesty the Queen wandering around at a public engagement deciding to stick her tongue out at people. So first of all, one might make the determination, well, this is actually rather undignified behaviour, and demonstrates again the disconnect between her school of narcissism and the situation that she finds herself in. But why is she doing it? Well, quite simply, it's a form of provocation. To stick her tongue out in the manner, she's not doing it in a manner which is to say yabu sucks to people. It's actually being done in a playful manner. The narcissism makes her believe that she should do this and that it's being done in a fun kind of playful manner. And it's done not because she's fun and playful, but it's being done to cause a response. It's to make the tertiary sources in the crowd look at her and react to her, because as you know, the narcissist must always be the star of the show. And so when these tertiary sources, the crowd or audience members, are there, they come upon her radar. The first question the narcissism asks in the unconscious, is this crowd, is this audience under control? Answer, no. Therefore, steps must be taken to motivate the narcissist to take steps to assert that control, and she does so directly because the narcissism suggests to her that it would be a good idea to stick her tongue out. Of course, this would not necessarily sit particularly easy with people looking at this and thinking this is the behaviour of a duchess. However, the narcissism doesn't care about that. It cares about what occurs in that moment. It cares about getting that control and drawing the fuel. And remember, it's doing this unconsciously. She just thinks that she's being playful with the crowd. She does not realise she's doing this to get control. She doesn't realise that she's doing this to draw fuel. She thinks that she's being fun, playful, amusing, that she is being one of the people, in effect. But what's actually being done is a form of provocation governed by her narcissism for the purposes of seeking control and also drawing fuel. And that's what's behind what's going on in these two photographs.